Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, let me get over here. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our webinar session with the PhD Project. My name is LaPray George. I'm the Senior Director of Chapters, Members, and University Relations here at the National Headquarters of National Black MBA. Very happy to be joining you again. As we were talking before we officially started about a moment ago, the first session, part 1 of this session with PhD Project, we got a huge response from our members as well as KPMG employees and others that got wind of the session and just had a great discussion. Great information was shared, and all of that information is available on our YouTube page. It's the Black MBA within the YouTube platform, and you can see the entire session to get a sense of what we discussed in the initial conversation and have that for your record. The same way this will be recorded and added to the archive as well. So I want to just quickly say that I'm a huge fan of the PhD Project. I'm actually within what's considered ABD, all but dissertation status right now, unfortunately. I know I see some frowns on the screen, but yeah, I'm still working my way through, but wanted to say that because I recognize the value of the PhD, but more so that it's not an easy task. It's not easy to complete. If it was easy, everyone would have one. I think the last numbers I saw showed about 1% of individuals actually have the degree itself. So if you have interest, if you're looking to go that route, you're in the right place. The information that's shared today is going to be really beneficial for you to even begin the process and also take you through the final steps. So very excited to have the PhD Project here to join us to discuss today. For those that are not aware, the PhD Project was founded upon the premise that advancements in workplace diversity could be propelled forward by increasing the diversity of business school faculty. They have an expansive network of supporters like National Black MBA, various sponsors and universities that assist Black, Latinx, Hispanic Americans, and Native Americans to attain their business PhD and become the business professionals and professors, rather, who will mentor the next generation of leaders. And National Black, we're always seeking to develop mutually beneficial partnerships with organizations such as PhD Project, whose missions and core values align with our very own. So we're proud to be an alliance partner with PhD Project and their efforts to engage, educate, and provide opportunities for our members and future generations of business professionals. So given all that, I would like to introduce you now to Mr. Blaine Rushak with the PhD Project. He's going to walk you through a little bit about what he does, what the PhD Project does, and then we'll begin to have a conversation with other individuals that are on the call this afternoon. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to you, Blaine, and when you're ready to advance the slides, just let me know.
Great. Thanks, LaPray. And one of the things we do is keep encouraging people like LaPray to follow through and get that PhD. And I know you're going to do it, so it's going to happen. So thank you again for letting us be part of this collaborative event. The PhD Project, as LaPray said, the premise was if you put, diverse, people and faces in front of the classroom, it's going to impact, the attraction of diverse students into the universities and business programs that then leads to a diversity of corporate America. So, that's the model. And we all know we're hearing so much in these days about the lack of the kind of diverse talent for leadership levels. And that's what the PhD Project is all about, is creating that diverse talent to be able to go into corporate America and move up in the top ranks, be the CEOs, COOs, CHROs, et cetera, of America. So, it's been a great ride. I've been the president for a little under 2 years. But I've been involved with the PhD Project through my role at KPMG, where I headed up recruiting for a number of years. And I'll say it's just an amazing program that's been very beneficial to us as part of corporate America to see the impact the PhD professors have had on students. We have story after story of a student who didn't even think they were going to go into business, and they meet a PhD Project faculty member, through university or through a student organization. They decide, wow, I could be that person. And, they were successful in a business career, and they're talking about that. They then, wind up going to business, and they join one of our, great organizations in corporate America. So, and I'll say, selfishly, if we saw the cycle truly go all the way through, that same successful business leader would someday say, I want a PhD too, and go get their PhD and keep the cycle going full scale. So, so next slide, LaPray. If you were at the first webinar, you learned about the PhD Project. and our infamous November conference. So if you did not listen to the first one, go back and listen to it. You're going to hear the November conference mentioned. Applications are open. We really encourage you, if we've even piqued your interest a little bit through webinar one or today's webinar, go on and apply for that program. And that is pretty much 3 days of telling you, is this what you want to do or not want to do? It's a really, really great experience. The infographic there just summarizes what was covered a little bit in the first session about the impact in the various business disciplines, how many diverse faculty and students we now have in the pipeline to become diverse faculty. So, we have some great statistics up there. So once again, go back and listen to the replay if you're interested. Today's will be focused a little bit different, more about, so let's say you decide you do want to do it. What's the life, line look like, a lifetime look like for PhD, getting a PhD program and becoming a doctor. And I think that is just an amazing thing. Something that is not on my resume, but I look at people on this panel and say, well, that could be me if I was going to go get my PhD. So keep that in mind as we get through today's session. You've got a great panel lined up to talk to you about their experiences. Next slide, LaPrae. Just a summary of our objectives. It's about, once again, creating a more diversified workforce and doing that by creating the role models. And it's not just the classroom. It's leaders at universities that are now department chairs. They're provosts, they're deans, they're presidents. They're impacting the universities, which then impact the student population, which then hopefully impacts what corporate America is going to look like. And you'll hear a lot about the research, right? When you think about professors, first thing that comes to mind is teaching, but research is huge. And I'll hear again and again how so many people were attracted to this, to a PhD program, because it allowed them to research something they were interested in and then do thought leadership and impact, corporate America in a different way, not just through teaching and mentorship, but through also their research. So, keep that in mind as you hear the panelists today. Next slide, LaPrae. So the panelists will be talking about this. This is the life cycle. So, hopefully you're interested enough to come to our November conference and learn about the application. Which schools should I apply to? And that makes a big difference, right? You have to decide which schools are a good fit for you. Then you're going to have the coursework. So you're going to hear so many of the students talk about passing their comps, right? So the comprehensive exams, and that's a milestone, right? You'll see the PhD project has a certain gift we give it that milestone because it's a tough one. Then once you get past that, now you're into your dissertation stage, which once again, as LaPrae said, it is not an easy program. And you get through that, you pass your dissertation, and then you become a doctor, a professor. And that's when we have a really big celebration as part of the PhD project. And also when we have our annual get-togethers with the students, it's always a big celebration as we cap the new professors as they head off to their universities to make an impact. So I'll stop there because we have some great panelists, and Dr. Blockson always facilitates a great session. So hopefully you enjoy this session. I'd love to see names from this webinar applying to our November conference, and would love to see you in Chicago. We'll be live in Chicago, so hope to see some of you there. So thanks again, LaPrae, for letting us be part of this. And off to Dr. Blockson.
Well, thank you so much, Blaine, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Lakita Blockson. I'm the founding faculty director of the Social Innovation Master of Arts program, and I'm an associate professor of management at Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia. And I've earned my PhD from the University of Pittsburgh in 2002. And I attended the 1995 PhD Project Conference, which was the second conference the PhD Project offered. And I attended that after being inspired to consider doctoral study from attending a PhD Project information session similar to this one that was held in 1994 in National Black MBA Conference in San Francisco. So I was sitting in a ballroom at that time, or a conference, large, ballroom area, listening to speakers such as we are today, and just how you're listening to us today. I was in your seat some time ago. So yes, I was quite inspired by that work. And in terms of my relationship with the National Black MBA Association, I have been a member of several chapters during my journey and my professional and academic experiences. And I also was a recipient of a PhD fellowship from the Pittsburgh chapter of National Black MBA Association. So I always want to give, mighty thanks to the association for the work in supporting and partnering with the PhD project and with doctoral students and faculty members throughout its history. And from that point, I'd like to turn over the reins to Ms. Katrina Johnson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katrina Johnson, and I'm a doctoral candidate at Rutgers Business School. I am looking to defend my dissertation within the next month, and I will be beginning a tenure track position at Kent State University. So I became aware of the PhD project in like 2013 when I attended Kent State University. And at the time, the dean was a Black man named Dr. George Stevens. He was a big advocate of the project. And so I applied, attended the November conference, and I was just inspired. I left there knowing that it's feasible, it's possible, and that if I had any challenges, there was a network that I could depend on. And so the PhD project has been very instrumental through each stage of the program, even as I wrap up my time at Rutgers University. So prior to pursuing my PhD, I also was a member of the National Black MBA, the Northeast Ohio chapter. They were very instrumental in getting me internship and also my first employment after getting my MBA. And so I was very involved with their Leaders of Tomorrow. I was their assisted with the case competitions. And so to this day, I'm still not as actively involved, but I still communicate with the members. They have been very instrumental also in terms of data collection and being able to get the voice of people of color in terms of doing our research and being able to hear the voices of others that are not always represented in our literature. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Kaitlyn.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Man, the PhD Project is such an amazing organization, and I'm just so excited to be on this panel. My name is Kaitlyn, and I am entering my 4th year of my PhD program here at the University at Buffalo, Organizational Behavior. I was introduced to the PhD Project back in 2015. 2015, I was actually at the National Black MBA Conference, walking through the conference, whatever y'all call that. I forget what it's called now, but saw the table and I was like, oh man, I think I can do that, because I had recently went to a conference. So I got my master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology, and I went to the Black Psychologists Association conference, and I saw a room full of just Black people that all was getting their PhDs or had their PhDs. Granted, it was in psychology, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like, man, I think I can do this. So then at that point, I was like, man, am I gonna do IO psychology? They don't make no money. So then I was like, oh, I'm gonna do business because they make, man, it's the same thing and you just make a lot more money. So from that point, man, 2016, I met Tracy Dumas, a professor at Ohio State, and that woman is, oh my gosh, again, like I said, I love the PhD project. She basically just helped me, and she believed in me before I believed in myself that I could really do this. And here I am now, man. Like I said, entering my 4th year. I got my research published, first author, passed comps, did all of these things, and man, the PhD project is amazing. And if this is something that you want to do with your life, if you are willing and able to put in the work and be dedicated to this craft, man, it's a great lifestyle, I'm telling you. So I guess I'm passing it on to the next person. Yes, okay.
Thanks, Kaitlyn. Good afternoon, everyone. Charles Richardson. The bio says all you need to know about my background. I heard about the project also through National Black MBA. I've been a lifetime member for some time, and I went to a session there. And as Lakita mentioned, I was at the first conference for the project in 1994, and I heard nothing there that would dissuade me from pursuing this. As many of you have, you've been corporately employed. I was corporately employed at AT&T for 25 years. And as you may know, the change from a monopoly to a competitive company did not go well. And so I saw an opportunity to have a life after AT&T, and this is what I did. And so the notion of the conference itself and the project, I can't say enough for the support system that goes on. And I'm part of the marketing group, and so I can only speak for the marketing students, but we have a saying, no doctoral student left behind. So no matter what you're going through, whether that's personal, work, life, etc., that is a place to go and go every year, no matter what's happening in your program, so that you can be around the people that know what you're going through and we will give you all the support. There's no competition. It's a bunch of people just wanting to do it. There's not enough of us to be competitive, and we need more. And so we'll do all that we can to encourage your success before and after you're in your program. So I'll pass it back on to Nikita, who will go with the presentations.
Thanks so much, Charles. And so what I want to do is spend a few moments to give you all a sense of what to expect before entering a doctoral program. So this is all about the preparation of the application process and the exploration that you will engage in to prepare for applying to and then entering and being accepted into a doctoral program of your choice. All right, so first and foremost, why get a PhD in the first place? Please be mindful, and we mentioned this in the previous webinar, that a PhD in business is not a super MBA. So it's not just merely an extension of what you, if you have an MBA and went through an MBA process or a master's program, it is not just a next level, next extension or natural extension of that type of learning process. You don't need an MBA to get a PhD, but nonetheless, it is definitely a distinct degree, whereas a theoretical degree, where an MBA is primarily an applied degree. And of course, the PhD is the terminal degree in academia. So what you want to do is ask yourself, are you really interested in research? Just as Blaine mentioned earlier, you know, that's going to be very key into being applying for doctoral programs, because doctoral programs are seeking to train and seeking to mold individuals to become scholars, which means becoming researchers and develop the skills and the knowledge and the tools and the acumen to be independent scholars and thinkers. Do you enjoy learning, innovating, and solving complex problems? If you're doing that now, particularly in your professional environment, and you're asking questions like, well, why are we doing this and not that? Is there some theoretical or empirical reason why this approach is used or could be used or should be used? If you're asking those kinds of questions, then this might be the route for you. Do you want to teach at a university? Again, earning the doctorate, the PhD, particularly in business, it is geared primarily to prepare individuals to be academicians at the university level. Not exclusively, you know, others may pursue other routes, but primarily the focus of a PhD in business, particularly at the AACSB accredited institution, is to prepare academicians. Do you like working with students and helping them develop their ideas? That's going to be key. If you don't like working with students, regardless of their age, or being in a position where you can mold and shape and guide and seeing yourself as not just a subject matter expert, but also as a coach, that if you do see yourself in that role, then this is definitely the route for you. If you're the kind of person who engages in training activities and likes to facilitate training sessions, and you like that engagement and sharing knowledge and working with others, then this may be the route for you. Do you wish to consult at a higher level? So for those of you who are consultants, whether full-time or part-time, and you want to, at some point in your future career or part of your career path, want to be able to engage with organizations at a higher level than the one you are at now, then a PhD will allow you to do that. PhD in business from an AACSB accredited institution will allow you to do that. But I must put out this word of caution that say the word consulting is the reason why you want a PhD is going to be detrimental to any application process that you engage in. So no doubt we'll talk a little bit more about that offline or as we go along, but it does prepare you nonetheless to be able to engage with organizations and leaders of organizations and engage in higher level consultative activity. And are you able to draw conclusions from data? So are you a nerd when it comes to the data? You don't necessarily have to be a quant jock starting the program because you're going to learn various methodological approaches. But nonetheless, are you comfortable with data? And are you able to make sense of that data and draw appropriate conclusions from that data? If you are able to do that and you are interested in being able to do that, if you want to develop and enhance those skills, then the PhD is right for you. Next slide, please. And I'll go quickly through the rest of these. So where should you apply? Just to let you know, you can see that you have these various rankings from US News World Report, Business Week and the like, for all the various MBA programs. PhD programs are not ranked credibly. They're because the PhD programs are based on the strength of the faculty and the researchers and scholars in a particular discipline. So some schools may have a strong core of faculty who are conducting research in a particular area, and other schools it may vary. So in that regard, just because a school may be highly ranked as MBA program, depending on what you want to study, the faculty at that institution may not study or conduct research in the area that you want to study in. So don't let the rankings at the MBA level persuade you or shift you to one direction or the other. Next slide, please. So where should you apply? Now, of course, that's a huge question. If you apply to attend the November conference, this will be an opportunity for you to really hone into and get more insight as to where you should apply. But even before going to the conference, these are some questions you can ask yourself. For instance, where do you want to be when you graduate? So what type of institution do you want to affiliate with as a faculty member? Is it a highly research institution? Is it more of a hybrid where teaching and research are balanced? Or do you want to be at a teaching institution? Do you have geographical limitations? So are you geographically constrained or have to stay within a certain 3 or 4 hour drive radius because of family or other obligations? Can you commit to full-time study? Please be mindful that the PhD in business from an AACSB accredited institution, save a couple of different organizations, is a full-time commitment. They're expecting you to relieve yourself of any employment opportunities that you're engaged in now to be able to pursue this degree full-fledged and full-time. And even for the very small few programs that are AACSB accredited, but also allow for some part-time activity, it is still a full-time commitment, just to let you all know. What business discipline is right for you? You may have an interest in continuing along the theoretical and disciplinary path that you have already set for yourself in your undergraduate and graduate experiences and your corporate experiences. But nonetheless, there may be a discipline within business that is slightly different from what you've already studied or what you know, but because of your lived experience or your professional experience is now generated a keen interest in another area. So for instance, you may have pursued work in accounting or marketing, but now you're really interested in organizational behavioral aspects of those fields. So you may want to study organizational behavior management, keeping in mind that the marketing or accounting background you have may still be quite relevant. And also, can you really live where you go to school or where you'll be in your program? Can you make that commitment to be there in residency for 4 to 5 years? Again, a PhD program in business and AACSB accredited institutions, such as the ones for which we earned our degrees or earning our degrees, have a residency requirement. So are you willing to be there? And yes, there are some schools that will be the best fit for you that may require you to relocate to a different part of the country. And we want to encourage you to explore those schools and unless you have a significant geographic limitation, to not allow that to limit you. Next slide, please.
Dr. Bloxton, we're starting to get a couple of questions in the chat. Do you want to hold off until the end of the presentation, or do you want to answer them as they're coming in?
For the sake of time, let's wait till the end. Okay. And there may be some questions we may be able to answer within the Q&A field, but let's wait till the end. Thank you.
Make sure. Thank you. Go ahead.
So where should you apply? These are some sources of information that you can consult to get the ball rolling in that inquiry process. One, talk to business school faculty that you know and trust, whether from faculty that were at your undergraduate or graduate institutions or others that you may know personally. Think about where you attended your undergraduate and graduate school and in the immediate past, particularly if you've graduated within the last, say, 10 years. What type of school was it? Look at academic journals. So if you're interested in a particular topic, Google Scholar is your friend. So you can use Google Scholar and other resources to be able to type in a keyword search of the topics that you're interested in and get a sense of what's being published. And yes, it can be a bit overwhelming, but if you narrow it down over time and you can get a sense of who's doing what, you'll find out there's certain scholars who are publishing in a certain field or certain area or on a certain topic. Where are they located? Where they earned their degrees? That might give you some indication of where you can start your search. And then look at websites from doctoral granting schools in your region. So for the ASCSB business schools in your area, you can start looking at their websites to see what degrees you can earn from their particular doctoral program. And even if you decide not to apply to that particular school, it will at least give you some indication and some insight as to what schools are looking for in their students and how their programs are set up. Next slide, please. So how do you apply? So just quickly, the basic application items for a doctoral program, of course, the application itself, most are electronic now, versus back in the day when you had to actually type it up and mail it. You definitely would need transcripts of all your past academic work that be sent directly to the program, and they'll indicate how to do that. You will need to write what we call a statement of purpose or a personal essay. Most doctoral programs want an actual statement. Some may actually have a field on the application or a question on the application itself where you would type that in. But most schools want an actual statement of purpose or personal essay as to why do you want to pursue the doctorate? Why do you want to study this area? And why would you want to pursue your degree at that institution? You'll definitely need letters of recommendation. Oftentimes letters from previous professors or those who can speak to specifically your research acumen, your level of inquiry, the various skill sets you bring to the table that will be indicative of good performance and progression through a doctoral program would be key. So if you have previous professors that you stay in contact with or can contact, and there are ways to do that, and the like, go forth in doing that. Those are some of the best letters that can speak to your, again, intellectual curiosity. GMAT and GRE scores are going to be key, particularly the GMAT scores. So if you need to take a GMAT workshop or prep session or prep course of some sort, we encourage you to do that, because if you've not taken the GMAT within the last 5 years, you're going to need to take the exam again anyway, because only the most recent 5 years of any scores are accepted. And of course, an application fee. Now, some schools may waive the fee depending on if you are accepted to come to the November conference, and you show some indication or that you attended, then some schools may waive that fee or provide a discount for that fee. It never hurts to ask, but also be prepared to pay an application fee for those schools who do not waive them. Next slide, please. And the admissions process. Oftentimes interviews are required, whether via virtually or in person. So as part of that process, they may ask you to meet with some of the faculty members, some of the doctoral students, the program director of the doctoral program director of the program or the institution, and the like. But if it's not required, it's okay, and it's encouraged to request one, or at least to request a visit so that you can meet with some of these people, some of the faculty and doctoral students. You can get a sense of what the culture and climate is like. Definitely talk again to the programs or talk with the program's doctoral students. They will give you oftentimes some of the skinny. Not to say they're going to tell you, some negative things, but you want to hear the good, bad, and the I won't say ugly, but the neutral or indifferent. Keep in mind, for AACSB accredited PhD programs in business, only a few applicants are admitted every year. Most programs will receive several hundred applications from prospective doctoral students or applicants from all around the world. So, and now of course it may vary on discipline, but nonetheless, only a few are accepted every year. So what you want to do is, again, apply to what we like to say on average, 15 to 20 doctoral programs. And it's not uncommon for most of them to apply to 15. Some will apply to as few as 10 or 12 and maybe a fewer. But the more applications you submit, that increases your chances of being admitted into a program that would be of great fit for you. And every program intends to admit applicants with the best fit to their program. So you may be the best student, you may have the best background, you may have the highest SAT, GMAT scores and done all kinds of work and research and the like. But if your interest and if your the topics you want to study are not in concert with the faculty and the work that's being conducted at that institution or at that program or the structure and nature of that program, then as great of a candidate as you otherwise would be, you would not be a good fit. So fit is really the key word here. And we can, through the project and through the November conference, if you're accepted, can give you some additional guidance in that. Next slide, please. And then from there, there's a decision process. So once you submit applications and you're invited to an interview or you request a visit and the like, these are the elements of what a successful application looks like. You know, they're looking for a record of solid academic achievement. They're looking for evidence of intellectual curiosity. They're looking for excellent writing skills. They're looking for a high GMAT score. They're looking for previous research experience that may be more available. So nowadays, a lot of students or a lot of prospective students have worked on projects with other faculty members at their undergraduate and graduate institutions. They may have worked on projects in their employment. That is really helping individuals to be viewed as potential academicians. So if you have done that kind of work, those are some of the things you want to be able to talk about in your application. Next slide, please. And so from there, let me just talk a little bit about funding before I switch it over to Katrina and Kaitlyn. Almost all the programs, AACSB accredited programs, the ones affiliated with the PhD project, offer significant financial support with that mission. So if you're admitted to the program, they're admitting you with the understanding that they're going to provide significant financial support. And that may vary in the amount, but nonetheless, that full financial support oftentimes includes, paying for your tuition and fees, offering a fellowship and an assistantship to help cover some of your personal expenses. There may be opportunities, depending as you are progressing through your program, for you to be able to become an adjunct or a lecturer for additional funding. That varies from university to university. There may be other funding sources available both within the university and outside the university that you can also tap into. So some programs will require you to teach as part of that developmental process. Some will, again, not require you to teach, and some will actually encourage you not to teach so they can focus on your research and working with your professors. And again, other financial support can be available through foundations, professional organizations, and the like. All right. And then so for now, what I want to do is shift it over to Katrina and Kaitlyn. So they're going to talk about the process of being a doctoral student, what to expect during that doctoral program experience. Katrina and Kaitlyn.
I'm muted. All right, okay. So I'm going to take this first half just to talk about these first two. Well, I can talk to y'all about the first 3 years because I just finished my 3rd year. But one thing that I will stress, and this is the most important thing, because you won't know until you actually get to this side. Picking the right program based off of fit and your advisor is the most important decision that you're gonna make in your life, because man, your advisor makes or breaks your program, and you won't know it until you get to 2-3 years in and you realize like you're either gonna come to 2 decisions. Either, man, I had a great advisor, or damn, I didn't have the support that I needed. So please, that's the most important decision. Don't pick a school based off of the brand power, brand recognition. Don't get me wrong, like stuff matters, but man, your advisor, man, my advisor, Dr. Jim Moore, oh my gosh, man, I love that guy. But so yeah, so the first 2 years, we gonna the next slide. I know it's a slide about coursework. So now these may be courses that you may take. I'm OB, so I'm going to talk about OB. Here in the first 2 years, you're going to come into a program and you are going to have doctoral seminars, which is basically the topic areas that are specific to, like, I guess, the research interests of the faculty at your program. So for instance, here at University of Buffalo, social networks, research methods, leadership, teams, and diversity and inclusion. Those are the seminars that I took. And then on top of that, as Lakita spoke to statistics, man, you're gonna take stats. If you don't like stats, you need to get to like stats, because if you don't like stats, then this is the wrong field for you. But we take a lot of stats, we just take a lot of stats. And then on top of that, I would also encourage you to apply to ICPSR, which is at the University of Michigan, and it's like one of the most prestigious summer programs for quantitative methods that you can go to. I went there after my first year, and man, it was the best decision I ever made, because I came back from my second year geared up, ready to rock and roll with more confidence in my ability to do the work. So I would also encourage you to do that. But so you take these courses, but then also, again, remember, you're a student, but you ain't really a student. Like, you're a professional doing this. So you just also need to be focused on treating this like a job and putting in the work with figuring out and reading these papers and seeing like, okay, well, what am I interested in? Because what you think you want to research when you come to the program is probably not what you want to research. So again, these first 2 years, you just come in, man, and just soak it up like a sponge. Any professors that you can work with, particularly your advisor, work with them, assist, do projects, and you're gonna do some BS work when you first get in, because again, you don't know anything. Swallow your pride. Pride, oh my gosh, pride is one of the most destructive things for any PhD student. You got to get rid of that. I just wanted to throw that out there. But then, so you take these classes and then get good grades. You should get good grades. You should get A's, but I'm just gonna keep it real with you. You should do the work such that it allows you to get a good grade, but research is the research. That's what we get. If you do not get an APUB first or second author by your 5th year, and you want to get to like a Wharton or Harvard or Yale, one of these top schools, you're probably not going to do that, because you need to focus on research. Grades, okay, but research. Next, after your 2nd year, man, you got to take comps. And that's probably, to me, people be like, oh my gosh, comps. I thought it was one of the most rewarding time periods of my life, because this whole PhD process, man, is very autonomous, and it's nobody like watching you to make sure that you're doing this work. Hey, my advisor, give me something to do, and all right, well, you got to execute and come back on the deadline with either work done or, hey, man. So again, it's a very autonomous process, but with comps, oh my gosh, it's just you. So those 5 seminars that I told y'all about, you get an exam, closed, is no notes, no nothing, all off the dome, and you get a test question that you don't know. And you have, so here at Buffalo, we do 2 days, 2 8-hour days. You got 5 questions, and you got to write between like 5 to 10 pages per each question. So you end up writing like 40 to 50 pages over the course of those 2 days. You don't know the question, and you got to remember all these citations, all of these papers that you read. And again, like I said, it's just rewarding, man, because you realize like, oh my gosh, like comps for me is that's when you realize either you like what you're doing or you don't. That's just my own personal thing. But Katrina, did I miss anything? But I just feel like I covered everything. Again, the first 2 years is all about just doing the coursework, doing what it is that you do, learning, figuring out what you sort of gravitate to. But then just being humble, doing the work, swallowing your pride, being able to know that you're gonna fail, mess up a lot in your first 2 years, because like if you don't mess up, you can't do everything right. But only when you mess up can you get corrected. And oh yes, well, man, the PhD project, make sure you tap into that network, man, because talk to the older professors, talk to the individuals that have been through it and can help guide you. The students, the PhD project is like it's not a thing that's gonna help you just get through it, or it's not an organization that's gonna just pull you through just because you're in a PhD project. But man, it's just the people that's in this place, man, I love the PhD project. And Katrina, I'm done.
Thank you, Kaitlyn. And so the comprehensive exam is usually completed after the end of your 2nd year. And so now I'm going to talk about the next 2 to 3 years of the program, which is the dissertation phase. So after you complete your comprehensive exam, you're required to complete your dissertation, specifically your dissertation proposal. And so basically here, you're making a big contribution to the field. It's a novel idea, and you're building on literature. And so one big takeaway that I hope you're gaining from the conversation we've been having is that the PhD is very research oriented. And so everything is geared towards how you're contributing to the literature, how you contribute to existing knowledge. And so you're able to kind of form a foundation of what your dissertation may look like by the coursework you're taking, by some of the research you may be engaging in with your advisor or with other faculty members. And so ideally, prior to the dissertation phase, you have worked on a project and you're already grounded in a specific area of literature, whether that may be like diversity or maybe motivation. There's a lot of different domains that you can contribute to. And so basically the document can be as, I haven't seen a 50-page dissertation, but more likely around 100 to 200 pages. And it's subjective, right? And so you have a committee. Your committee is based upon your dissertation advisor and then possibly like 3 or 4 other members. So it can be around 4 to 5 people in your committee. And you're really at the will of your committee in terms of completing the milestones and making sure that these are being performed the way it should be performed. And so it's an independent project. You're actually doing this by yourself, but you're being guided by your committee. And so this is the big takeaway in terms of what I was told when I attended the PhD projects, that the PhD is not earned, it's granted. And so it is at the will of your committee in which you are able to complete your PhD and defend your dissertation successfully. So the next slide. So ideally, the job search process begins a year before you actually complete or defend your dissertation. And so, as I said before, you are required to defend your dissertation proposal, which is basically your idea of what you plan to execute for your dissertation. And so when you're on a job market, you're basically presenting a shortened version of your dissertation. And at this time, you'll have like data collected and kind of have a preliminary results in terms of what contribution you're adding to the field, or maybe an independent project that you're working on. So Lakita alluded to earlier about the importance of the different array of institutions in terms of bounded schools. Some are like more teaching based, some are more research based. And Kaden talked about, whether it's Wharton or Harvard, there's different tiers of institutions. And so that's going to guide your job search. And so, for example, if you have a more interest in more service-based, teaching-based school, then your process may look a little bit different from those who are pursuing a research-based institution. However, the process in terms of presenting your research, possibly doing a mock teaching presentation, all looks the same. The PhD project has been very instrumental in this stage of the program for me. And so I just got off the market this past fall. So it begins in the fall, in the summer, actually. You prepare your job market application, you begin applying to different universities. And so the PhD project was very instrumental in terms of helping you practice your job talk, helping you to understand your offer, negotiate, and making sure that you have the best offer at hand, and where you're going to be best supported in terms of being in the tenure track role. And so that kind of wraps up what the later stages of the program looks like. I now will turn it over to Dr. Richardson.
There you go. Thanks, Katrina, appreciate it. Next slide. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, there are very structured roles and processes as you join the academic ranks. The first position is typically an assistant professor. As it mentions, it's introductory level. You get your PhD, and that's the slot that you typically go into. I will say that as we go through the ranks, the industry is shifting, and I'll speak a little bit about that as we talk about progressing through these ranks. Next slide, Ray. So for somewhere between 5 to 7 years, roughly, or on average, you're going to be at the assistant professor rank. And I would suggest that you spend some time speaking with your institution and understanding what the process and appraisal process is going through in order to earn the title of associate, because there are different models for your reviews and your expectations. Sometimes you may get reviewed the first year, the third year. Some programs don't really evaluate you until it's time for you to submit your package, in which case you may not be on track, and therefore you may get surprised by a result. So I'd be very clear about what it is that I'm going to need in terms of research, what I'm going to need in terms of teaching, and what I'm going to need in terms of service. And beware of being overwhelmed by service, particularly for a minority faculty. you typically may get bunched into solving all the issues of the Black students at that institution. And it's good service, but it may keep you from your teaching and may keep you from your research. And you don't want that, because while they're appreciative of your service, they're going to still point to the fact that you did not have the research production in order to earn tenure. Next level, at the full professor, and again, as the associate professor rank may take you somewhere around 5 to 7 years. You could count on another 5 to 7 or so to go from associate to professor. Again, these will vary a bit by institution, but that's a typical average for you to look at. And then particularly if you stay either at an institution for a significant amount of time or create such a environment where you are known for certain things, you may be recruited by another institution to come on as someone who is tenured and shown great contribution in a given area to become a distinguished professor or even an endowed chair, where you're going to be getting even more money besides what you're typically getting at your salary. Next slide. I can't say enough for the benefit that you're going to be providing for young people. We're dealing with so many generational differences. We've got, everybody thinks they want to go to college. They're going to college, they're not sure what they want to do. And you get a chance to guide them. And if you're anything like me, I think I had one Black professor when I was in my MBA program, and that's it, I think, for my entire academic career. And so it's going to be unusual to see a minority professor at the front of the classroom. So you will have a lot of opportunity to bind with the students and be a real role model for them. And so I can't underestimate the ability to change lives for generations, for people who may not have gotten there otherwise. You, of course, within marketing, within management, within finance, have lots of sub areas. My particular area within marketing is primarily consumer behavior. And that may be a choice of what you do. It may be a bit of choice of your position that you accept in terms of what they need. They may need a professor in quant. They may need a professor in consumer behavior, and they're looking to fulfill that specific slot. The schedule, for the most part, is dictated through conversation at most schools. And so you may be a Tuesday, Thursday person, Monday, Wednesday, Friday person, you know, whatever makes sense for you and your circumstances. And typically they're able to arrange that and for the most part have that type of schedule going on. I think that this is a well compensated industry. And when you think about your hourly time that you spend in what you're doing, as opposed to 10, 12, 15-hour days in corporate, you've got a lot of freedom. Again, I'm talking maybe 2 days a week, 3 days a week teaching. You should be spending your other time doing other things like service and working on your research, but that may be time at home. And so you have a tremendous amount of flexibility. I've had 2 sons, my wife and I, while I was in my program, and I particularly appreciated when I graduated and was able to spend time with them in their schools from pre-K on up, because I had that kind of flexibility within my program. Again, summer's off for the most part. There's a lot of research opportunities and other activities. Everybody I know in academia, obviously pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, does frequent travel. There are conferences that you're going to be encouraged to go to. You're doing networking, very similar to what you do in corporate, and getting to know people that you can collaborate with across universities, et cetera. And again, I can't say enough for the lifestyle that is attributed to an academic versus a person that's at corporate. And a lot of times when I'm counseling my MBA students, you know, that corporate lifestyle may look really great at 30 or 35. But it's not going to look so great for you at 45 and 50, because now the new 30s and 35s are coming along trying to bump you out. But if you're a tenured professor, I mean, unless you get serious either mental or physical challenges, you can teach for a really long time. My idol retired at 87. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'm going to try to emulate what he did. And he was still being productive in his mid to late 80s. And so I can't again say enough about this program. And when you get into the program that you want to be, do not ever, ever disconnect yourself from the project. When it's tough, go to the project. When it's fun, go to the project. Every year, the best you can, go to your meeting, whatever discipline that you're in, and maintain those connections, because we are all a very small community at this point, and we'll do everything that we can to make sure that you get finished. With tenure, again, going through those ranks, you're looking at about a 5 to 7 year journey. Those elements that you're looking at are going to be graded. They're going to have different weights depending on the institution that you're at. And you obviously need to understand what those weightings are. Some institutions are going to be looking for 2 or 3 journals that you need to publish it. Others are going to have a more liberal listing. And so you need to understand, again, the appraisal process at the institution that you're at, and do your best to comply with that so that there are no surprises. Again, last time, I'll say it 3 or 4 times, stay with the project, because that last bullet there, how they evaluate what you did, well, it's not necessarily a numerical scale. And some very senior professors will say, my journey was much easier than yours. And Lakita and I can just go back to when we went to the project, and the volume of research that has been done in those years are now in your comps that you're going to be taking. And I've had older professors say, when I did comps, we had 3 journals. It was no big deal. So we have to give you students that are going through school now a lot of credit for going through the zillions of articles that you have to know and be able to, as Kaitlyn mentioned, just talk from the top of the head without notes, without anything else. So obviously know the literature. That's the key ingredient in terms of getting your progress. The last point says that a lot of times you may not get it at the first institution, but if you've got the will and again, you follow the procedures, you may get it at another. Persevere, just as you've had to do through your program, and you'll get there. And we agree as a group will do everything we can to facilitate you in that process. That slide, right? All right, Lakita, I'll turn it back to you.
Great.
Go with it.
All right, thanks, Charles. So quickly, before we go to Q&A, I know several of us in the panel have been, and others on this call have been able to answer some of the questions within the Q&A section. But nonetheless, we do want to leave a few minutes for Q&A openly. But before we do that, one, just encourage you again to apply for the November conference. This is where, again, you'll have an opportunity to receive a wealth, a plethora of information within a 48-hour, 2.5, 3-day period that otherwise would take you months, if not years, at Google and internet notwithstanding, to be able to collect on your own. This is where you're going to be able to meet with a lot of faculty members and doctoral students and program representatives, so you can learn about the various programs, and again, get even more detailed than what we're providing you today about the PhD project process, or PhD program process. So to be eligible for the conference, you have to apply, and you must, in order to apply, you must meet these criteria. You must be a Black or African American, Latinx or Hispanic American, or Native American for the conference. You also must be a US citizen or permanent US resident. So no foreign nationals in that regard. And if you're in your senior year of college, so there may be a few of you who maybe you're an undergraduate student now, or you have members of your family and the like who are actually undergraduate students and who might be interested in going this route as a career path. You need to be at least in your senior year of undergraduate college. So you can't be a junior, sophomore, or freshman if you're pursuing the undergraduate degree, because we do allow, just as was alluded to earlier, you don't need a master's degree to enter into a PhD program. And there are some students or some individuals who go straight from an undergraduate program into a PhD program. Now, those students may have to take a few extra courses of graduate work to be that bridge, but nonetheless, it is possible. Next slide, please. All right, so just to give you some logistics or some background on the conference, it will be held in Chicago, November 17th through 19th of this year. And it is invitation only. That's why the applications are key. So not everyone who applies for the conference is accepted and invited to attend the conference. So please visit the phdproject.org website to be able to access the application, and you can see, again, the questions that are asked. A lot of the questions that are asked on the PhD project conference application are very similar to questions you will see on applications for doctoral programs. And these applications for the PhD project conference are reviewed by heads of doctoral programs. So in that regard, you're getting a sense, they are getting a sense of what you're able to bring to the table, even at this point. And they're able to get some indication as to what degree and say, well, you know, you have the potential to really be a great doctoral student, and this is the kind of student we would look for, or we want to learn more about. So they, you know, would be able to approve you to come to the conference. Please note that the deadline for applications is September 30th. So we encourage you, even if you want, you can start the application process now and save your work and come back. But nonetheless, you know, if you are in any respect interested in this, you can apply for the conference. Even if you're not sure if you want to apply to doctoral programs to start in fall 2022, you can still come to the conference and apply for the conference, because you may discover and discern that you might need a few years to get ready to apply for a doctoral program, but it never hurts if you apply for the conference and you're accepted to come to the conference, so you'll know what to do and how to prepare. The registration fee is $200 when we're having it in person. If by chance this conference is going to be held virtually, of course, we'll let you know, and then there'll be a $50 fee to register. The registration fee for full-time students is waived. So we will waive it, you know, and then just also when you apply to come to the conference and you pay the registration fee, it is non-refundable unless you enter a full-time AACSB accredited business doctoral program within 3 years of attending the conference. If you do enter into a program, you're accepted into one, then we will reimburse you the fee that you paid to come to the conference. So we want to at least give you that incentive. And on that note, I know there are several questions. Oh, I'm sorry, stay connected. So yes, please, if you haven't already done so, please visit the phdproject.org website. And also please connect with us and stay in connection with us and informed. We send a lot of information through our various social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also, by all means, please stay, engaged with the National Black MBA Association. So there's, going to be information, of course, from this this webinar and other materials and other means through which you can connect to us through the National Black MBA Association. And we want to still encourage you to maintain your membership in the organization as well. So, of course, Mr. George LaPrade George, Senior Director, his contact information is there. You may already know how to reach him directly, but he is our main contact in terms of our relationship between the National Black MBA Association and the PhD project. So with that in mind, we do have a few moments. We may go a little bit over 2 o'clock, and so we understand if you have to leave. But we do want to be able to try to answer a couple of questions. And so some of the questions that were raised mostly speak to, in one way or another, about the application process. One in terms of what types of schools, to apply to. So I know there was a question regarding to what degree, are online doctoral programs viewed by institutions if you want to be hired by an institution. I will be honest with you. I think we all will be honest with you. Many, I won't say all, but many part-time, online, partial residency programs are not viewed favorably if you want to be a professor at a business school. So if you want to be a professor at a business school like myself and like Dean Richardson, then we encourage you highly, we can't stress this enough, to apply to an AACSB accredited, that's the key word, AACSB accredited business doctoral program. Those are at your flagship universities, your research-oriented universities, private and public and the like. Those are the programs that have the research intensity and ability to prepare you to be a scholar academician. Other programs may not prepare you appropriately and unfortunately are somewhat frowned upon. So in that regard, we want to save you the trouble in that and saying we'll focus on or encourage you to place your energies toward AACSB accredited programs because those are the ones that are highly accredited. Another question was raised regarding GMAT scores and admission criteria and letters of fact from, letters of recommendation. We will go into a lot of that information at the conference, and there is some information available about some of those questions in our frequently asked questions section on the PhD project website. But the long and short of it is a full-time commitment. So again, you will not be able to. You'll be not be able to work during this process. So it may take some time for you to save money or to arrange with, if you have a family, how you navigate that process so that during this full-time commitment, you're able to progress successfully through the process and to be able to do well as a result of it. So we see it not necessarily as a sacrifice, but an investment in yourselves professionally and personally. Let's see, so we wanted to be able to at least answer some of those questions at this time. There were a couple other questions that came up. Let's see, very quickly. The list of schools that are actively seeking and recruiting Black PhD candidates. There's not necessarily a list of schools that have affirmatively said that, yes, we are actively recruiting per se. All PhD programs are seeking great talent. And in that regard, the PhD project website does provide links to ASCSB and to other resources where you can determine or discern the schools that are seeking candidates or seeking students who want to study in various areas or disciplines. So there is no list per se of which ones are looking specifically for Black candidates, just like there is no list of schools that are saying which are the top ranked PhD programs and the like. Let's see.
Dr. Bloxon, can you address Camila's question there? It's been posted for a while. I want to make sure we get that one covered. Are you or Dr. Richardson able to address Camila's question in regards to the coverage around Black professors not obtaining full professor status in the media?
I'll let Dr. Richardson start with that one since I've talked quite a bit.
Well, to be fair, I got tenure at an HBCU, so it wasn't a matter of race there. I have taught at a PWI, and depending on the culture there, you could see where an institution versus another might have those challenges just basically when you look at the senior level staff and who's around. And if there are no senior professors there, it's probably an indication of something.
Yeah. And for that final question, either of you that wants to address it, can you just finally cover the difference between the PhD and the DBA?
Yes, so the DBA, the Doctor of Business Administration, that is viewed as a terminal professional degree versus a terminal academic degree. And in terms of there are levels to this, I like to say, the PhD is the ultimate degree you can earn. So a DBA, an EDD, a Psych D, a DSW for Doctor of Social Work, all of those degrees, now mind you, compared to their master's level counterparts, are definitely more research intensive and theoretically empirically intensive. However, all of those degrees outside of the PhD, those degrees are still professionally geared and oriented. So the academic rigor required to get through those programs is not as great as to get through an actual academic PhD program. If you get an academic PhD, like the one that Dr. Richardson and I have, and the ones that Kaitlyn and Katrina are earning at this time, that positions you very well to be able to compete in a number of different places, a number of different areas where degrees in other fields might limit your ability to be able to engage, particularly in academia. So those who have EDDs, for instance, typically they earn EDDs so they can go back into the school system, whether it's principals, superintendents, and the like. Those who earn DSWs want to go back into the field of social work. Those who are in Psych D, they want to be clinicians. So they're into the practice. We as PhDs, do we understand practice? Absolutely, because we're business professionals and we understand the relationship between theory and practice. Nonetheless, we engage in the scholarly pursuit of new knowledge and intellectual dissemination of that knowledge to various audiences, primarily students, and being in a position to have the training that allows us to be able to conduct independent research.
Lepre, if you don't mind, I'd give a short answer or extension of the question about Black faculty, and I'll just extend that to faculty of color as defined by the project. There are definitely project-friendly schools, but it also needs to be understood that it is time dependent, because as Lakita and I keep talking about, and she's younger than I, but have been around a while, there are institutions where you've had tremendous support from faculty, but as those faculty age out, they may or may not be replaced in the same way. And without diminishing any institution, Georgia State is an example of that. We have a project person that's been in 25 years, I think now. But the culture at the institution in terms of having doctoral students and having faculty has changed over the years. And so I would used to describe them as friendly, PhD project friendly schools. Their culture has shifted, and it's not somewhere where a lot of African Americans are going now. Florida State is a project friendly school. And so friendly, my son is there now. He's not a business major, but I've hooked him up with the faculty, although the FAM people are a little upset with me for talking to Florida State. So it's very time dependent, and that's something that you can, I think, easily determine by the website and by looking at the faculty that are in your discipline and having some questions about them and their participation.
And there's one question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kaitlyn, quickly.
I just wanted to chime in and just let individuals know that's on this call that if this is a route that you plan on taking, you got to just know that you're going to be the only Black person 9 times out of 10. Like, I'm here at the University at Buffalo. I'm the only Black PhD student in the business school. And you just have to be okay with that. But just know, like, again, that's why I said your advisor is the most important thing, because I've had to learn that it's important to develop your professionalism with respect to, you know, you being a student, but at the same time knowing that this is a job and this is a small field that we in, and how you conduct yourself in and out of this office will follow you. So just always, I would just say again, it's just important to, even if you are the only person of color in your program, just know, like, where you blazing the trail. And so live your creed with respect to just being an example for other individuals to follow, regardless of what you may experience. And just realize that if a person come at you and you feel like they're disrespecting you based off your race, identify that as ignorance and keep it moving, just because your calling is higher. I just want to make sure that I put that out there. Okay.
And a couple of things quickly with that. One, that's the beauty of the PhD project. Once you're once you're admitted and you apply and admitted into and accepted into a doctoral program, business doctoral program affiliated with the project, once you are a part of it, then you become connected to one of the doctoral student associations. So even if you're at an institution where you are the only one, like Kaitlyn, for instance, now in Katrina's case, she was not the only one. But in Kaitlyn's case, he was, but that did not preclude him from being able to connect with other doctoral students through the PhD project as doctoral student associations. And no doubt leaning on those relationships was, very key at times when you could not or felt as if you were alone at your particular institution. So I definitely want to say a shout out about that very quickly. And also keep in mind, and just to dovetail a little bit of something that Kaitlyn mentioned, the PhD, this whole process of being a doctoral student, this is an acculturation process. So this is not, just as Katrina mentioned earlier, this is not a degree program where you're taking classes and checking off the boxes. Think of this as an apprenticeship, where you are an apprentice when you're in a doctoral program. You are learning the trade. You are learning the craft from a bevy of master craftsmen or craftspeople. Once you earn your degree, and actually you really, I'm sorry, let me say that. Yes, you're putting in the sweat equity and the time and the light to gain that knowledge and the skills. But it is a degree that is conferred upon you by a group of your peers. You are being acculturated to become a peer. So you are, as a doctoral student, are an aspirant peer. So when Kaitlyn mentions, like, yeah, you're a student because you're learning, but you are being accepted into a program with the understanding and the intention of them creating you in the image of them. and you're an aspirant peer in that regard. So you're progressing through the program to a point where once you defend your dissertation, where you're able to demonstrate through that dissertation product that you can conduct independent research and that you have the knowledge, skills, and the like to be able to make a contribution to the body of knowledge. That's when they'll say, okay, you are now one of us. Welcome to the union. Here's your card or your degree. So keeping that all in mind is what makes a PhD program unique and distinct. And to explain the difference between, again, we explained the difference between a DBA and a PhD. Want to be able to at least allude to those things so that people understand that, again, this is an acculturation process. It is not just checking off the boxes. And I think, Katrina, there was a question that was directed to you in the Q&A that you want to elaborate a little bit more on.
Sure, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the question.
Okay. I believe the question spoke to, in terms of career experience. Was that the one? Okay, I'm sorry. There was a question that related to, and this is a question anyone on the panel can answer. Someone mentioned about, is it frowned upon to have years of professional experience? In the business field, generally is no. That's actually encouraged. But I want the other panelists to be able to speak to that.
Yeah, I would agree with Lakita. I think it's encouraged. It's also an asset for you. I think, so in my research right now, my dissertation, I'm actually looking at the advancement of these advisor and advisory relationships as one progressing to the tenure track role. And so I do think it can benefit an individual who has substantial industry experience to, as they're thinking about pursuing a PhD, if you can get your hands wet a little bit, whether that's working on maybe like contacting someone who may be interested in working with a professor, or maybe it's a consulting company who does research-oriented work, getting your hands wet with the research process. I think that can be very beneficial before starting your PhD program. It's not required, but I think that can be an asset in even writing your personal statement and kind of having more sense of, what it is that you have an interest in pursuing, and how it can be a little bit better directed in terms of who you may align best with in the PhD program. Because as Lakita mentioned, it's all about the fit. And so they have to see that, oh, okay, I can see her working with this individual because of this background or things along that matter.
And there's a lot of research done that is tied to corporations for input, and having those relationships I think are important. And for me, as someone who's transitioned to administration, the business skills are really important. I've got budgets to worry about, I've got personnel I've got to manage. And so having some experience in that area, I think will come back at some point in time, but particularly as it impacts your pedagogy and being able to apply real life situations to the textbook, I think it's valuable. And then the other comment I want to make real quick about the classroom while you're in your doctoral program, you're not in a class, you're in a seminar. And that is very different way to roll. And so the professor's not up there lecturing with some chalk. He's asking you questions. He or she is asking you questions, and you better have read the material for that day.
Absolutely.
There's no escape.
Absolutely. No, yes. And mind you, most seminars, there may be no more than 3 doctoral students in the room with the professor. So, and you've heard a little bit about all the work the research you have to read, the journal articles you have to read, and all the knowledge that you have to gain during particularly the coursework phase in terms of, just understanding the field, understanding the discipline, and then being able to make sense of it so that you can put your own take on it or have your own take on it in terms of your own research going forward. So yeah, you can't hide in a doctoral program, particularly not a PhD program in business at an AACSB accredited institution. No, there's no way of hiding.
So I have a feeling the questions will keep coming and coming. So I'm going to encourage everyone to connect with our panelists via email. We will send out the deck as well as the recording, and I'll be sure to include contact information for all of our panelists. So again, obviously great information, and there's a desire for more and more. So I'm sure we'll be doing a 3rd session with our friends from the PhD Project in the very near future. So Dean Richardson, Dr. Blockson, soon to be Dr. Palmer, and Dr. Norris, thank you all for joining us this afternoon and providing all that great insight. And I will allow you all a moment to offer some final comments.
I'll start, let Dr. Richardson go, and then Ms. Johnson, Mr. Norris, and then I'll end.
I would highly encourage you to do this. Your path is going to be divinely guided, but life is good after you finish a program. And I haven't pledged a frat, at least not yet, but the whipping you get is well worth it when you're done.
If you're thinking about applying for the conference, apply. If you still have questions, apply. Like, you're going to get all the information that you need to know. If you're still on the fence, apply. If you don't know, apply. Just trust me on this. It's this times 100. So I just definitely encourage you to attend the November conference and apply, because it's a wealth of knowledge that you will gain in terms of making sure that this is the route you want to go.
Yeah, I'm just to piggyback off what she just said. Apply, just do it, man. This is one of the most. I'm happy. Listen. You know, we get these stipends. We don't get paid that much at Buffalo. We get like a $20,000 stipend, but the money don't matter. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, man. Again. Oh, I'm not sure.
You just stopped sharing the screen. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hey, well, I'm just gonna say this, man, and it's such an amazing field. It's an amazing career path. 2 weeks ago, last week, I presented my research to the owners of the NFL football team. So, man, it's just like, it's the possibilities are in this field. And if you're thinking about doing it, and again, if you are willing to put in the work, then do it. But if you don't want to put the work in, then stay away. That's just my own personal opinion.
And I'll wrap up by saying that, again, two things. One, we couldn't answer every question, unfortunately, but again, there's a wealth of information available through the phdproject.org website. Please visit it. Please, click on all the different tabs. There are different YouTube videos and other stories and information and frequently asked questions and links and the like that can answer quite a few of your questions. Secondly, I'm going to repeat what Katrina said, and everyone said, apply for the conference. If you have any inkling about wanting to pursue this, it is okay that once, if you're accepted to the conference and you attend the conference, and after the 3 days and after, some thought and reflection, that this might not be the path for you, it's okay if you ultimately decide it's not the path for you. But we want you to be well informed about this entire process. We just gave you an hour-long snippet of it. But we want to make sure you're making an informed decision for yourselves, your families, and the like. And so, again, if you have any interest in pursuing the PhD or any interest in becoming a professor like us or aspiring professors, please apply for the conference. It'll be worth your while. And with that, we want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks again to the National Black MBA Association, and for this great opportunity to be able to reach our membership. And we look forward to hearing from you all soon. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you all. Enjoy. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, LaFrey.
My pleasure.
Be safe.
Thank you all.
Talk to y'all later.